Cute. I think this is the first time I've gone dumpster diving for a film and come out clean. That's probably because this one was just sitting right on top of the pile there. In fact, you've probably heard of this one. This is 2000's Battlefield Earth, starring John Travolta, Barry Pepper, and Forrest Whitaker. It is based on a science fiction novel written by the founder of the Church of Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard. This film is so bad that despite being widely known, it's still in the dumpster, so I guess we're gonna find out why. Well, Earth looks healthy enough from here these days. That could be why.
This is all the medicine I can find.
I'm sorry. The gods took your father in the night.
Well, where'd they take him? I'll bring him the medicine there. I was kidding!
Has anyone here ever seen one? A demon! A monster! A beast!
You mean Tom Cruise? Yes. The old man tells him that humans became selfish and pissed off the gods, so they left and the demons will continue to descend on the Earth until the gods return and take Earth back. Is this a Scientology thing? Because it just sounds like a more sci-fi version of the tribulation in the Bible. That's right, pissing them off in two religions. This may result in the stereotypical insults from the Christians and the possible surveillance from the Scientologists. What have I done to myself? So Gumbo here, why am I calling him Gumbo? It works. Gumbo decides to leave the village in search of a better place for all of them to settle.
You know, your mother gave this to me before she died. She hoped it would be passed down to your children.
That's code for good luck getting laid ever again, buddy. Gumbo attacks what appears to be an abandoned theme park dinosaur.
So you're the beast we're all afraid of.
It is? Well, problem solved!
We were hunting. We have no time to show you gods because we have no food. We need food, we must hunt. Non-believer.
Whoa, don't go all crazy with your insults there, dude.
First you show me the god. Then we eat.
Look. Frozen ones. Drive the chariots in front of special caves with golden arches. Golden. And the food would magically appear.
Is this supposed to be serious? Is this part of the book? Because this is almost irreligious by saying that humans have an insanely skewed version of the events that happened thousands of years ago. So that Noah guy who put a bunch of animals on a boat when the earth flooded and then God made a rainbow promising that would never have to happen again? Probably some kid stole his brother's stuffed animals before pushing him into a lake and then gave him a rainbow windsock to apologize. It's as good a theory as any. So they wind up going into an abandoned shopping mall and they try to feed Gumbo glass, which if he eats it, it will be a fitting end for the human race. And then suddenly someone shoots bad CG at them. They all get shot, but they don't die from getting shot because here they are being flown to what was once apparently Denver, Colorado, which is now enclosed in glass because these aliens cannot breathe in the Earth's atmosphere. The humans, however, cannot breathe in the aliens' atmosphere, so they are given weird nose plugs to help them breathe. Gumbo shoots one of the aliens and runs for it. Nobody seems to care until we run into John Travolta, playing the head of security, an alien named Turl, because I guess that's how you would abbreviate terrible. And Forrest Whitaker as the Cowardly Lion, now known as Kerr. Who am I kidding? He's Gurr from now on. Apparently, these aliens have figured out how to brush their back teeth, but not their front teeth. They also have not figured out how to hide the patch of spirit gum holding on their facial hair. Terrible, meanwhile, takes this scene to show through bad dialogue that not only is he an asshole, but he is also leaving his assignment on Earth soon to head back to the home planet.
I'm a psycho of my word.
A psycho of his word? Okay, psychos, I guess.
Does all of Earth look like this?
Oh, I'm afraid so, sir.
Pathetic.
Oh, what do you know? The psychos were also too stupid to reverse climate change.
Oh, you're too much!
So they tell me.
So they refer to the governing body of these operations to mine the Earth's resources as the corporation and home office. But it sounds more like a military thing, so I don't know if L. Ron Hubbard couldn't think of the right words or wanted to make it different, so he made it more privatized sounding. Maybe he was making a statement that evil corporate overlords actually run the government. Am I giving L. Ron Hubbard too much credit? Or not enough? No. This guy tells Terrible that the Home Office has decided they are not going to transfer him from Earth as originally planned, and this has something to do with an incident involving the senator's daughter.
But cheer up. There's one bright side to this. One day, you're going to die. And when you end up in hell, at least it'll be a step up from this place.
I'm not so sure we're not already in hell.
Your powers of observation are simply startling.
Why, thank you for noticing, Terrible.
While you were still learning how to spell your name, I was being trained to conquer galaxies.
So while he was learning to spell grr, his training wasn't very extensive, was it? At one point, Gumbo has to fight the love child of Colin Farrell and Rufio from Hook, and wins. Yay. Stop that! That's annoying and clearly not real. Now there's a potential workers' revolt. Instead of increasing workers' pay, they toy with the idea of training the man-animals to mine.
Man-animals operating machinery? Have you blown a head gasket?
So, who did they think used the machines they must have found on Earth when they invaded? The penguins. That's it. We should get the penguins to mine for us. This random tower falls apart, which kills a bunch of humans and gives a brick for Gumbo to break free and run a little bit. The psychos take away his breathing apparatus and take bets on how long it will take for his lungs to burst. So logically, he begins running, because that's the healthiest thing you can do for your lungs when they have no oxygen. Terrible and Gurr argue about the plan to excavate gold, and Gurr says they should partner up to steal gold from Earth. Terrible, however, is recording him saying this because he's a dick and conveniently stops recording before...
But it's your stinking plan, sir.
Meanwhile, Gumbo is still running. Terrible shoots the guards chasing him, then decides to use Gumbo for his experiment to mine gold.
Well, man is a primitive species, so we'll need something primitive for leverage, like food. What do you think a man-animal would like to eat?
You've enslaved humans for how long and still haven't figured out what they eat? So they drop Gumbo and a couple of other people randomly on a mountain.
3 days, and they still haven't eaten anything yet.
Now that the man-animals feel that they have a safe enough distance from us, soon they'll find their favorite food and celebrate.
Hang on. According to these psychos, when you're in survival mode and you haven't eaten for 3 days, you're going to go past all the potential consumable things and find your favorite thing instead to eat. Well, the joke's on them. I'm pretty sure all of the Taco Bells are closed at this point. They find some rats and begin eating them raw, so the psychos assume that the humans love raw rats. This plan is foolproof.
If man-animal prefers its rat uncooked, then our job is that much easier.
This isn't serious enough to be scary or dramatic, but it's not funny enough to be, funny. How the hell are we supposed to be feeling about this, John?
Crap, lousy ceiling! I thought I told you to get some man-animals in here and fix it!
Do you suppose that started out as a mistake and they kept it because it added realism? This is probably something a tall-headed psycho would have to deal with on a daily basis. They send men to fix the ceiling, Gumbo starts playing with the computers, and Terrible puts him in a chamber to educate him about the psychos as punishment. The holographic jellyfish floating above him is necessary somehow, I'm sure.
I know who they are. I know where they've come from. I can speak their language.
He goes back to learn more so he can start educating the other humans about the psychos.
I'm cured! Praise God!
Shut up, Alex! They begin figuring out the computers and other technologies the psychos have set up, and meanwhile, Gumbo's horse finally returns to the original camp, and this man, who appears to have been clawed by something that conveniently left the area surrounding the eye alone, tries to stop Rosie here from going to find him.
Do you want lunch?
Anyway, the psychos begin talking about their plan to steal gold from the Earth and not turn it over to the Home Office, and the humans start recording them saying this. Their plan to shoot the psychos fails because psychos don't store loaded weapons, which is actually a good idea, but then Gumbo threatens in their language to turn their plans over to the Home Office. They take the humans to a mining site, and to impress them with his marksmanship, Terrible shoots the legs off of a bunch of cattle. He is a psycho! A surprise attack from the humans in the woods gets Gumbo control of the gun.
We don't kill to torture, we kill for food! Didn't you learn anything about your history? Man was the only species that hunted animals for sport. No. I know everything about you.
Except how to speak their language, or that they don't really like eating raw rat, or that they've ever operated machinery, or you really don't know anything, do you? Should Gumbo shoot Terrible? Gumbo begins lecturing the others why not, and how the lights in the sky are not gods but planets, and they must go back and try to learn the Psycho's machines better to free the entire human race. The Psychos then show Gumbo that they have Rosie. How they knew Rosie had anything to do with Gumbo, we might need L. Ron Hubbard to explain, and he can't because he's dead. Anyway, just to show what the collar can do, they attach another one to another human and blow his head off with it. Back in It's Always Sunny in Prison, they convince Gumbo that it's not his fault that the man died, and his plan to destroy all of the Psychos is better. He gives himself bangs, and this means something significant apparently. Everyone gets excited because there might be a plan now. Terrible begins teaching Gumbo how to fly and mine. Well, that's convenient. If the Psychos have to go with them to supervise the mining anyway, why don't they just do all the flying? When radiation levels are detected, bad CG explosions pop up throughout the cabin. Terrible tells Gumbo that they will be surveilling them from a distance, so they better not try anything funny. Oh, so that's why they couldn't fly. Alright, my bad. Gumbo sees that there's no way they could mine enough gold to fill the containers in the allotted 14 days. So Gumbo decides they're going to get it from a place that has already mined it and fill the containers from there. The location of this gold? Some random place called Fort Knox. That's adorable. Luckily, our ancestors left all of the doors at Fort Knox unlocked. Terrible is confused that the gold is already in bars.
I assume, sir, that the cyclo of your refinement wouldn't settle for anything as coarse as raw ore.
Why doesn't he just tell him the truth? Why does Terrible care where the gold came from as long as he has it? Terrible now wants the remainder of the gold mined in 7 days instead of 14. The humans plan a revolt instead. When they stage an attack, the security officers will leave their posts and Carlo will blow up the glass dome over Denver, so then the Psychos won't be able to breathe and they will all die. They need to destroy the Psychos' home planet first to prevent reinforcement fighters and guards, so they head to a radiation bomb storage bunker in Texas, otherwise known as Fort Hood, where Gumbo's bangs are suddenly gone. By the way, are the Psychos not curious why the humans keep jumping around to different places and not mining gold? The humans find planes and bombs and a flight simulator to teach them all how to fly. Surprisingly, this stuff has been sitting here for hundreds of years, yet it all still works. Also convenient. This guy volunteers to fly to the home planet and detonate the radiation bomb. Gumbo warns Gur that Terrible's going to turn on him by turning over some compromising recordings to the home office. Gumbo has the disc the humans recorded earlier of Terrible and Gur talking about the gold mining plan, and in exchange, Gur gives Gumbo the key to Rosie's collar and releases the humans. Gur gets drunk and watches the discs from Terrible's vault. Terrible is upset when he finds out that Gur made a copy and gave it to someone. In a plot twist, Terrible figured out ahead of time that it was the bartender, and, well...
Our friendly bartender!
You could say he was ahead of the game on that one. Terrible shoots off Gur's hand, and Gur is strangely unfazed by this.
5 guards from the south, heavily armed and moving fast.
That's fast? I feel like a zippy mall walker could take them out. Carlo? 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 Yes. After much epicness, they blow up the dome, but much of it only cracks and doesn't break. Carlo sacrifices himself to finish the job, and this causes Psychos to just fly out of buildings. Gumbo throws the exploding collar on Terrible's arm and tricks Terrible into detonating it, blowing his arm off. Gumbo, now get the gun and shoot Terrible because we're sick of him! Meanwhile, the radiation bomber goes to the home planet and detonates it, obliterating the planet completely. Suddenly, it's morning on planet Earth. We will rebuild. Of course, Gumbo didn't kill Terrible, but locked him in a cell in Fort Knox. Gumbo is using him as leverage against any remaining psychos, and Gurr has joined the humans. The end. So why is this film so notoriously in the dumpster? Well, there are some obvious flaws. Many flaws. 1. Bad dialogue.
Your powers of observation are simply startling.
Apparently, the original screenplay writer was J.D. Shapiro, whose writing can be witnessed in movies such as Robin Hood Men in Tights and TV shows such as Charles in Charge, which means some of you might be questioning that quality already. However, Shapiro reportedly did not want to make the changes to the story that John Travolta was requesting, so Shapiro was replaced by Corey Mandel, whose only other writing credit before and since is a TV movie called Love Kills. Now you wish it was Charles in Charge, don't ya? This resulted in a jumbled storyline and unimaginative dialogue, though admittedly I still rate this movie's dialogue ingenuity a few notches above that of United Passions. Flaw number 2, bad makeup. Yeah. Flaw number 3, bad acting, namely on the part of John Travolta himself, the only reason this nonsense was made in the first place. Well, at least he seems like he's having fun being all madcap and melodramatic, but we're not. We're totally not. Flaw number 4, the cinematography, which in almost every scene overuses an angle called the Dutch tilt, and the slow motion effect in pretty much every action sequence. It starts to feel like 300 in the sense that if you took out all the slow motion, the movie would probably only be 45 minutes long. Flaw number 5, costuming. John, were you jealous of David Bowie's pants in Labyrinth and that's why you felt it necessary to emphasize your cock? If that's all you, I kind of have my doubts. For the record, I do not want you to prove me right or wrong, John. Just no. There are some explanations for some of the bad props and costumes and effects though. It turns out the reported budget for the film of almost $75 million might have been inflated as a scam on investors. Franchise Pictures, the production company, went bankrupt a few years later, if that means anything. The actual budget for the film is said to be about $44 million, which once you pay off all the people involved, especially the bigger names like John Travolta and Forrest Whitaker, that leaves your production with about $10 to $15 million or so, which is actually not a lot of money for a film of this scale. The very basic plot of this film is not bad. I mean, no, it's fine. Much of it is very typical of your average sci-fi book or movie. Dystopian future for humans, must defeat the overpowering alien race, etc. One thing about science fiction and fantasy is that many times it is a subtle or not so subtle commentary on society or current events. Strangely enough, I don't know that this was written with that in mind, but it has an oddly applicable message for today's audiences. Hear me out a second. Terrible and the other psychos were defeated mainly because they assumed they knew everything there was to know about humans and their capabilities and prided themselves on being superior without knowing the reality. Lately, we in society have been dealing with a rise in something known as the Dunning-Kruger Effect. The Dunning-Kruger Effect is a cognitive bias in which someone with very little knowledge in a particular area or incompetence in a particular thing, in their ignorance are unable to recognize that fact that they are unknowledgeable or incompetent in said thing and often have a wrongly inflated sense of superiority in that area. I didn't explain that very well at all. A couple of videos with more eloquent and detailed and frankly better explanations of the effect will be linked in the description below. One's even narrated by Stephen Fry. Bonus! Basically, it's overestimating your abilities, and the phenomenon of those with the least ability rating themselves as having higher abilities than those actually with the higher abilities would rate themselves. Terrible was so sure that he knew everything there was to know about humans that he didn't even bother trying to learn anything about them, and that is how they were able to defeat him at the end. So the moral of this story is, if you think you know enough, go and do a little more research to make sure. Good research doesn't lead to answers, it leads to more questions. Someone much smarter than me said that once, but I can't imagine who, because who's smarter than I am? I mean, wait. One thing, in my humble opinion, that you do not have to research is Battlefield Earth. I mean, go ahead, but you'll probably be sorry.
I am going to make you as happy as a baby cyclo on a straight diet of Grabango.